Welcome to SHAPE. The aim of this DT seminar is to further support your understanding of the syllabus and assessment requirements in DT. Key objectives for this session are to analyse the major design project, marking guidelines and their application of this in the selected student works on display. We want to give you insight into how the students have illustrated their understanding of the syllabus content through their major design projects. We want to highlight the range and depths of skill and knowledge that students can develop in this course and to support students and teachers in their understanding of the major design project requirements. This seminar itself is split into two sections, the first being a summary of the requirements of the major design projects, and then the second being an analysis of those selected projects that are on display downstairs. Hopefully you guys understand that your HSC comes in as 100 marks. 60% of those marks are based on the major design project. The other 40 comes from your written exam paper. Today's about the actual major project, so we're not going to be spending too much time or actually any time on the written paper. So what you need to understand is that there are two components of a major design project. There is a product, system and environment, or you're going to see the acronym a lot, PSE. This PSE is actually a physical solution to the problem that you are trying to solve. The second part of the actual work is a printed folio, 80 A4 pages in length, and you can check the rest of the rules with font sizes that go with it. But this is actually documenting the project proposal and management, the development and realisation, and the project evaluation of your product, system or environment. Here's a great example. If you have a look here of Amanda Smith Cannon, it's one that she's actually taken from her interest in surf safety devices. Quite a complex project. Your projects do not need to be this complicated, but you can see here there's a passion that the students actually followed. To tell us of her journey, she actually created the folio, which included sketches, CAD design, statistics and research, and it led us through her journey in creating this item. You'll find as well when you see these folios that they're actually well communicated. It's actually going to give us nice clear headings and guide us through that journey. So your projects, once they're actually done, need to be certified by your teachers and your school. Here the QR code will take you to a site at NESA which will give you greater understanding of the requirements of that certification. But if you're doing any HSC course that includes a practical component such as performance, project or submitted task, you and the school must certify that it is all your own work. You need to understand what those circumstances are and like for obtaining outside assistance, and it should be acknowledged and recorded within your folio. If you need to ask someone to help you do your project, we're suggesting that you discuss that with your teacher first, prior to actually doing it, to make sure that you're within the rules of the actual course. Okay? And as I mentioned, QR code is really helpful if you want to take a snapshot of that to lead you to the components of the NESA site that outlines that quite clearly for you. The NESA website is key to your learning. In there you're going to actually find things like the glossary of key terms, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But this is the source of information for you to develop your projects. For example, on the design and technology page, you've got things like assessment materials and examination materials that you can actually have a look at. You're going to find the marking guidelines there, which we'll point out soon, and also advice on the major design project and what's allowed and what you should be avoiding. There's support materials like past HSC exam papers. They're really important to actually practice with. And there's also feedback from the marking centres about how students have gone in the previous years. Finally, there's standards materials which we need to abide by. It is our source of information. It is the original source of information, and I encourage you, if you need clarity, this is the place that you need to go to. So marking guidelines. These are the marking guidelines for design and technology, and there are three components that you'll actually find for these guidelines. The first one is the project proposal and management, which is worth 15 marks. The second section of the actual marking criteria is project realisation and development, which is worth 35 marks. The final part of the marking component is 10 marks for evaluation. Now the projects that you're actually going to see downstairs are exemplars. They don't necessarily fit inside that marking band. So just take note of it. There's not a minimum down there, but they're giving you an exemplar of best practice of what we're actually seeing in the HSC. Each year, after the marking process is completed, the markers are asked to actually write detailed feedback on what they've actually seen through the marking process. And these are actually published by NESA each year. You can find them in the exam pack on the NESA website. This feedback addresses all 3 NDP components, and on the NESA website it's organised into what students should do. There's a section there which is in better projects, it was seen. And the final part there is areas for students to improve on. Again, like I said, generally speaking, the projects that you're actually going to be seeing here today are the ones that come under the classification of better projects. Be sure when you go back to your school that you take your time to actually read this feedback to see where you can actually improve your own work. It's quite an important and valuable resource. Hopefully by now everyone understands when I say the NESA key words. It's really important to understand that these key words are actually instructions for us into how to answer the question. So my advice in this case here would be understand what those key words are and know how to apply them to your projects. We see it every year. It's really, really hard sometimes to actually start these projects. You need to start to analyse what skills you've actually got and how to apply them. I know that some schools don't do metal anymore, for example. So if you don't do metal and you've got no experience in metal and your teachers don't have experience in metal, why would you do the metal project? Okay? So you need to think about it. The next thing about it is looking at your resources in your school. What do you have? Because you might find that you've actually got a situation where you put yourself out into the community to find those skills. So for example, I know I'm not that strong on coding. If a student asks me to do coding with them, I'll say we'll help as much as we can. However, it's going to be up to you to source that. So it's really important to play to your strengths and work out what you can and can't do. Here's another question. I'm going to go and spend $1,000 on timber for a project, or I'm going to take it off the street and recycle it. What's going to be better for the project? 100% right, but why? Sustainable, you're starting to hit the words, good. Sustainable, environmentally friendly, you're actually working and you're doing something that's helping to solve a problem. Also from the other side of it though as well, is that it's a skill set. Timber's cranky. Seriously, you get some old timber, it's going to crack and it's going to warp and it's going to move, it's going to be really, really nasty. So it's another set of skills that you're actually showing that can help you get the marks. Okay? So that's what you're sort of looking for there as well. Like I said, what I'm trying to say is play to your strengths. You don't have to spend a fortune to maximise your opportunities. And the whole idea with this is it's a 12-month project, so whatever you do, please choose something that you like. Because there's nothing worse than getting to this time of year and going, I'm going to change, because you're giving everyone else a head start and you've got to catch up again. Just keep that in mind when you have a look at these projects here as well. In this section, we're going to actually look at 4 different projects that are available for you to have a look at downstairs. And you can see that they're broken into 3 different types. We have 2 products, we've got 1 system, which is a way of doing things, and then we've got one that's actually an environment. An environment could be this building, it's a built environment. It might also be the natural environment. It might be the way that we can actually protect something like our waterways or our beaches. Okay? So each of these we're going to just have a quick look at and start to break it down so you can start to understand what we're talking about. Again, you're going to see snippets of each of the components for these, but we're not going to run through a whole folio for you. So the first one here is one by Stephanie Wilcock, which is a product packaging for the visually impaired. Now I want you to do one thing for me. Everyone, just close your eyes. Just close them for 2 seconds. Imagine that this is your life. Imagine you're actually now going shopping. Obviously you've gotten to the right aisle because you can smell the perfumes and the soaps and the things around you, but now you've actually got to find conditioner. or you've got to find shampoo. Beautiful brand name bottles there, but the bottles are matching, so you can't tell what you're going to buy. Open your eyes up again. That's what makes this project a genuine project. But when you're talking about people that actually have visual impairment, it's a real life need. And that's what Stephanie's actually locked into. Let's have a look at this marking criteria because it's quite important. Identifies and provides a detailed exploration of a genuine need and opportunities. And the final selection for the justification for the NDP. Each project, we are going to stop and look at this because if you don't tell the story right here, it's very hard to understand what we're actually looking at. So you need to actually spend a bit of time here to actually get this out. So the key features that are addressed in this is like identifying the possibility. Like I said, like you're going to find problems in real life at your level, which is acceptable as a project. But if you tap into those genuine needs that people can actually use, it's going to improve their life, it will make your project better. So you see here in the layout, page numbers, great, easy to count, easy to see. Big bold headings, great, I know where I actually am. This folio, and actually the ones that we're going to have a look at, are leading me down the path. They're actually showing me where to go and they're giving it to me and making my life easier. You can see that the research just isn't going to be, I'm going to make. She's actually telling us the story. She's showing us how she's generated ideas. She's showing us what the actual problem is. Starting to explore it. There's no reason why you can't have things like a mind map in there, but just make sure that we stay and keep it focused on that way. My opinion might mean something. I think I'm very important. However, I need to justify that. I need to actually show that it's a real problem. And Stephanie here has done that. She's actually gone and done some statistics. Made it really clear about the issues in life that people are facing. So it's obvious now it's a genuine need. It's something that needs a solution, that there is a place for this product in society. Again, here, focusing the need, really driving home and getting that justification there to say this is needed in society and this will actually help. You can see there by telling that story and making it aware, we're seeing her thought patterns because you've got to realise, we don't know Stephanie, however, we can see her journey because she's making it very clear for us, and that's what we're looking at here. So I've now just jumped, like I said, we're not giving you a whole folio as such, I've jumped over the areas of investigation, jumped over criteria for success, and landed on this action planning. Let's have a look at the marking criteria. Formulates and evaluates well-documented action, time and finance plans with clear evidence of their application to the PSE, product, system or environment. You can see here, like, even before we get to time or talking about it, Stephanie's thinking, what do I need to do? How do I actually go about this? Like, I don't know about you guys, but when you start designing and looking at these problems, if you've already got the solution and you've already got the answer and you know exactly what you're doing, not good enough. You need to struggle a little bit. You need to sit there and work and go, hang on a second, what am I going to do? Because if the answer's already out there, maybe it needs to be a little bit more unique. That solution needs to be a bit harder. So this is what she's doing. Here is my plan. This is the steps that I will need to take to make sure that I get from beginning to end. From there, once you know the plan, you can start applying time to it. That's how we get our Gantt chart. You can see with this one here, there's a lot of thought going into it, lots of colour, lots of things that are happening. But what you'll actually see is, as well, there's a predicted plan and there's an actual plan. This is what I believe is going to happen, and this is what actually did happen. So the idea here is when they're actually breaking it down, it gives you the opportunity to evaluate. How did the project go? What was the hiccup? What did I do to get over that hiccup? It gives you that opportunity to start thinking and evaluating, which again is required here through the marking process. Next one is finance plan. Again, you can see there's lots of thought going into this. I think I need to do this. However, when I got there, I didn't really need that and I wasted some money. Or I need more, or I need less. How does that affect your project? That's the sort of things that are actually being looked at here. It's not just like you guys stating it, evidence is required as well. I actually went to Bunnings and I bought this stuff. Here's the evidence. I'm giving it to you. So it makes it nice and clear that we can actually see the originality of the work and the effort that's actually gone into it. See the big purple box? That's her evaluations. And you're going to find all the way through this folio makes it easy for us to find. By having it easy to find, easy to lay out, there's also a communication section in the folio. It just lets us walk through the journey and see what she's actually done rather than hunting and trying to find the work. Makes things very logical and easy to see. I quickly mentioned the idea of communication. This is the layout that was presented on the day for the marking. It's great. We can actually see all the trials and tribulations. We can see what Stephanie's actually gone through. It actually helps us understand and puts real meaning behind what she actually wrote. So you can see, like, by having this table set out, it made it really good. But if we come back to the marking criteria, succinctly demonstrate. Don't want fluff. Let's get straight to the point. Let's tell people what we've actually done. Demonstrates a range of appropriate quality communication techniques and presentation techniques. Having all your prototypes out, having it labelled, great communication technique. Tick. Have that in the folio explaining and how it's actually working and evaluating it. Like I said, it's leading us on this journey and it's making it easier for us to understand. Here again, straight up in your face. Here's my chosen design. Okay, communicating it really, really clearly. This is what I'm going to do. Sure, it's in a concept stage here, but when it actually moves forward, you can see that it's actually developed and it links. Here's the application of conclusion. So you can see from the drawing, this is the bottle that was actually created. Justifying why it's actually in existence, actually showing the 3D printed bottle, showing the actual tactile nature of it so you can now feel what this bottle is, and then evaluating it on how it's actually going to work. Now the important thing here with this though is, and again I'm jumping again to the final section, which is the evaluation, it's showing us the relationship between what she decided to start out with and what she ended with. It's quite an important point in the sense that you can actually show progress. I am going to solve this problem, and based on this problem, this is what I've done. I'm going to critically evaluate it to actually show you that the problem has been solved, and I'm going to tell you again where those situations are. Everything links. Everything links. So from the first section, the identification, exploration of the need, areas of investigation, criteria for success, project management, idea generation, research, all of it keeps coming back to that first statement of the design brief, which says, for this project to solve the problem of. Okay? And this is one of the examples of what we've actually seen here. So the next one we've actually got is one by John Archer, Energy Efficient Hydroponics. Why on earth would he do this? What's happening in the world? What happened last week in Brisbane? Cyclone, floods, knocks out crops. So all of a sudden we've got a genuine need, we've got a situation where this project has a real purpose in life. If we had this situation, we might find that the crops might not have been damaged as much or as much damage done in Brisbane as what was last week. So here he's looking at hydroponics. It's a system. It is a way of doing something. It is a way of growing plants. Okay, so you just got to keep that in mind. System is a way of doing something. Identification and exploration of the need. You're going to see this 4 times. It's quite important. Here, in this case here, is actually a really good case study for it. Why we need to actually think about what we're actually doing. Climate change, we're running out of room, we're running out of space. There's a whole lot that actually needs to be done in that agricultural sector that can help our lives. He's come back to a genuine need of farming and the need for a reliable food source in society. Then he's actually justified it. He aims to demonstrate that hydroponics is innovation and it can actually do some good for our society. A lot of that was opinion. Fantastic project idea. This is what I reckon. However, you need to back it up with facts. That's what's happening here. You can see he's starting to do surveys. He's actually getting out there, doing the research, finding the facts to prove that it's a genuine need. Okay, again, coming back to the outcome. Exploration of genuine needs. That's what he's actually doing with the research here. Here again, with his action and time plan, really like putting a lot of time here in planning out the actual work. This is quite intense. Like, John's really thinking about this. He's trying to get it right. If you just remember back to the slide we showed you earlier with Stephanie's, it wasn't as intense as this, but they are both demonstrating thinking, and that's what's being looked for. Are you thinking about what you're doing? Are you planning out your actual work? Finance plan, again, the beauty of this here, smack me in the face with orange. Here is my ongoing evaluation to actually prove that I am thinking. This course is all about problem solving and thinking. Show us and make our journey easy. Let us find it quite easy for you. So you can see here again, predicted cost, actual cost, and then evidence of where it's actually purchased from. So again, there's no doubt that John's been working hard. Finance plan, and you can see that the finance plan actually links back to the project so we can see where things have been purchased and what is actually being used. Now, evidence of creativity and idea generation. People, there's no rules here, but you need to actually demonstrate a substantial application of creativity in the development. If you come in and just go, well, here's my drawing, this is what I'm making, there's no creativity there. You've already got the answer. Like I said, you've already got the answer, you know what you're actually doing already. You might need to rethink your project to actually show that development. Here, he demonstrated by example. There's a lot of depth here that he's actually going through in trying different things to see if they work. Looking at different ways that people have attempted it in the past, as well as trying his own. It's showing a lot of creativity in solving this actual problem. Sketching is a way to actually show you are thinking and that you are developing these ideas. He started off with some rough sketches, annotations in there showing us what he's actually thinking. And then from there, he's progressed and showed us another skill by now producing it in CAD. Showing us that growth, showing us that improvement, showing that thought process, and again, taking us on the journey. There's one section in the actual marking criteria which is a record and application of evaluation procedures. And you need to critically evaluate, so you can see we're getting to quite high language in the key words, aspects of the product system environment throughout the entire development of the project. Different coloured fonts can actually help us understand where you're evaluating. Here, a situation where it's actually highlighted and standing out. If we can actually see that through your folio all the way through, it's going to give us indication that you are thinking, that you are evaluating, and yes, it leads to actually respect for the work that you're actually doing. Again, there's a degree of depth. You'll find that there's not only the evaluation, which we've got going here, there's also the application of that evaluation. I found this to be a problem and it needs to be fixed by doing this. Here's a drawing of what I'm going to do. See this drawing? It has now been also applied to my project. Everything is linking to actually show the journey and the growth of the student. This is another example of a product. Millie Dumas plantar fasciitis. This is a great project. Again, it's actually helping people like with an ailment that is, I discover is quite common. So here, again, identification. She actually showed the cause, did interviews with people, finding out what the actual reason was. Now seeing this, it's explaining it to me what is actually needed and what needs to go through. The extent of the discomfort, what people are actually facing, and then even from there going into like little sketches and stuff to actually show us where that inflammation occurs and where and how it does. Now I have gone from novice reader to understanding and appreciating a problem because it's being broken down for me. Here you can see again, concepts starting to come. They're coming out quite early in this. It's still in the identification and exploration of the need. There's no reason why these concepts, if you've got them in your head, get them out. Let's start to explore it. However, you can see here, in here, it's been tied back to the ailment and how it can actually help. Lots of research being done in that first section. So now, to understand, if Millie is successful at the end of the project, she's now developed a criteria for success. All of you guys should be aware of what a criteria of success is, because every time you've got an assignment, at the back of that assignment it says, this is how we're going to actually mark your project. That's what this is. I know I will be successful at the end of this project if I meet this criteria. And that's what's actually happening here. Clearly laid out, describes the situation, helps support it with images here so we can get a better understanding of it, and then from there gives us a criteria. It must do this for it to be successful. Here, if you have a look at the keywords, analyse, okay, so we're getting higher in that level of word, and you want to make sure that you actually draw those conclusions out to show that you're actually thinking. Consideration of design factors. So again, here, there are two key concepts that might come into play here. Also with this section here, the function, that's the main thing here. If I've got pain in my foot, I want to make sure that I can relieve that. So function would be better to research in this case. Aesthetics, might be a sales point somewhere down the line, but I want it to work. That's the main thing. What I'm trying to get at here is, you get a long list in the syllabus of different factors of design. You don't necessarily need to have to do each one of them, but you need to do, or you should consider doing, the ones that are actually linked to your project. There's actually drawings here, and there's actually backed by research in the sense of what will work in this circumstance. Again, more research, different factors of design, how it actually works, and what it can actually do. Really nicely laid out, and again, showing us skills. Different communication skills. There's drawings here, there's written skills, there's also some layout that's happening here as well. Now we're actually coming to the situation where it's coming to fruition, and it's moved from the sketch to real life. The whole idea, like I said, is showing us that transition, showing us through that journey on how she's actually developing the solution. So here, justifies the selection and use of ideas and resources. And in this case here, it allows you that opportunity in your journey to tell us why you did it. Why is it important that you actually used recycled over going and buying new timber? Why did you actually go for a cotton foot rotating rubber versus one that's actually out of some form of plastic or other material? Tell us why you've actually done that. Tell us your options that you had, tell us the selection and why you actually made that selection. Here, in this case, these are human resources. We don't design in isolation, we collaborate all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that. But let us know that you can actually collaborate. Let us know who you've actually worked with. Let us know how they guided and helped you. It's all generating more respect for you as a designer and letting us know, again, the pathway that you're actually taking. Here, towards the end of it, and I'm now actually looking at the analysis here of the functional and aesthetics of the design. You don't need to actually do all of these factors of design, but it helps if you actually do the ones that you're going to comment later on. The marking criteria says that you need to talk about function and aesthetics, so make sure you include that somewhere. In some cases, you might actually make an argument. In this case, this is a medical device where the most important factor of it is its function. If it doesn't function, it's no good for the consumer. So aesthetics takes second place. Marking criteria. Analyse and critically evaluates the functional and aesthetic aspects of the PSC. So the whole idea is that you need to do function and aesthetic, make sure that you actually talk about both to maximise your opportunities. The final project we're actually going to look at is one by Georgia Raudra. This one is classed as an environment. You can actually have circumstances where we're talking about the natural environment or the built environment. Here again, there's a lot that you can actually do with it. This project represents a scale model of a modern, sustainable education centre designed to foster interactive learning and engagement for children. You can see it's got a natural flow to it. It's quite an interesting design. There's a whole lot going on here. Let's start with the identification and exploration of the need. As mentioned, this is a thinking course. Mind map is showing me how you think. It's getting it out of your head on paper so that you can actually have a think about it and break it down. It helps your understanding. It helps you develop your ideas. You might find that you run out of space at the end of the process. You don't need it, great, let it go. However, if you've got room in your folio and you're doing it anyway, include it so we can see how you're moving forward. Here again, lots of research, looking at different things that need to be within this environment, showing us like how it's actually going to improve the conditions for the students that are going to be visiting this centre. We get taught all different tools to actually use in these, things like SWOT analysis, things like PMIs. You've been taught them over the years, use them here. They are all thinking tools that will help you generate ideas. She's allowing us to actually see her thinking again by breaking it down into smaller chunks that we can read and understand. Stats come into play. It's great that you've got an opinion. Back your opinion up to show that it's a genuine need and that it's actually going to be used in society. It just really helps the cause. Okay. So here with areas of investigation, again, planning. What do I need to do to solve this problem? It's all linking back. Here's the problem. I need a sustainable learning environment where kids can actually go to learn about sustainability. What do I need to find out about it? You might find it's like, who the target market is. Again, by doing this mind map, it's breaking it down and allowing her to explore the areas that need to be considered. So Georgia here has used the mind map for that. She's looked at the relevant components and then converted that into like a PMI table, or it might be a SWOT analysis. But it's actually telling us that I need to actually go out and research this, and this is how I'm going to research it. If we're looking at this folio later on, again, because everything is linked, we'd expect to actually see that research done and see that research actually completed somewhere later in the folio. So if you're saying it here, make sure you do it later on for your folio. Right? And here we go, appropriate research and experimentation. So again, here, I'm going to investigate these areas of my project. This is how I'm actually going to do it. One of them might be doing models and prototyping. They do the model and prototyping. Yes, this worked, great. I am going to use this in my project. No, didn't go the way I thought. It's not going to necessarily work in this circumstance. Wasn't really environmentally friendly. I don't want to seem to be a hypocrite in what I'm doing. So I've changed it around and looked for a better solution. Again, here, it's written up where it's actually got a thesis, it's got a method on how it's actually done, and then down the bottom there, in some way, shape or form, some form of evaluation application on choosing how to use it or why it's been rejected. Here again, CAD models. Tried it out, done the drawings. From there, moving to the next part, we're actually constructing it here as a cardboard section versus one that's possibly 3D printed. What works for you? What tools do you have at your school? What materials do you have available to you? And what can you afford? Going back to that earlier section. Okay? You need to think about your strengths and what you can complete and what can actually do best for you. Evidence of practical skills. Don't assume we know how good you are. You have a right to tell us how good you are, to actually explain, I've done this. For people that are actually doing timber projects, you might have a joint that you've actually done that can't be seen. Tell us. Tell us how good you are, because that's what we want to see. We want to see how good you are. We want to see the work you've actually done and the journey that you've taken. So please, take photos like here. This is the work I've actually done. I've gone out, I'm using computers, I'm generating CAD. Let us know what you're actually doing so you can be rewarded accordingly. And that application is your final product, system or environment. A lot of the marks will actually come out of us interacting with that model, interacting with your product, actually testing to see if it works, to see if what you've actually said links and aligns. Yeah? And again, look with the evaluation of it, tell us the truth. We're going to sit there and play with it. We'll see if it works or not. But the whole idea is to actually go, oh, this is actually happening with this item. I can improve it next time by doing this. Okay? show us your thinking and you'll get rewarded for your actual efforts. Final evaluation again, like I said here in this case, impact on the individual, society and the environment. Here the individual could be you as the designer, it might be an individual user. In this case with George's, it's about looking at the environment that people are going to use to be able to learn about environmental sustainability. Does it work? Doesn't it work? That's what you're looking at. And again, here with this one here, the environment itself, when you look at the folio, it actually shows how water is being used in a sustainable manner, how the materials were done that way as well, and the whole idea of that concept. Georgia didn't go and build this, by the way. She made the model, but didn't actually build the building, but she's got to actually discuss those concepts and let us know what's happening within that building. One way you can actually do that as well is through your life cycle analysis. It's a good way of actually getting it out there and showing, especially if you're doing an environmental project, that you actually have considered that life cycle and that it's actually got as little impact on the world as possible, showing us and taking us on that journey to know what's actually happening. Manage your time wisely, communicate clearly, show us your journey, and hopefully next year I'll be standing here talking about you.